the presentation today. I hope my my audio is okay. I am unfortunately I got caught up. I am outdoors, but I think the sound should be okay. So architect Jacob Motanya is a registered professional architect and seasoned project manager with over 25 years of experience across Africa and North America. He's currently based in Cape Town, South Africa. Jacob is a principal of Miradi Architects and the CEO of Xamtek LSC USA and Miradinet Limited, Kenya, companies involved in architecture, infrastructure, technology, and investment. His career spans architectural design, facility management, and strategic infrastructure development in South Africa, Kenya, Zambia, and the DRC, and the United States. Jacob has led complex multidisciplinary projects involving housing, education, healthcare, civic infrastructure, and urban design. Notable engagements include the Kosovo informal settlement upgrade in Philippi, Cape Town, 18,000 units, Cape Town Stadium project management, 60,000 capacity, and managing Cape Town's Pickwick Transitional Housing Facility. He chairs the Project Network South Africa, an NPO supporting low-income communities with technical building support and fire safety. Currently pursuing an MSc in Finance and Investment Management, Jacob combines design, finance, and project implementation expertise. His leadership is defined by hands-on engagement, cross-cultural fluency, that's English, French, Swahili, and a passion for social responsive development. So I would like to welcome architect Jacob Motanya to be our presenter. Moderating the session is architect Kamau Keega, that's myself, former member of the Architects Alliance. And just to remind you that we are hosting you as the Architects Alliance. And the Architects Alliance is available. Membership is open to all architects, from students, graduates, practicing professionals, just and even the older.
Okay, and let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, I can see it from here.
Okay, so okay, so the title of our the title of my presentation is Architect versus Construction Project Manager, Case Insights. So good afternoon, colleagues and fellow professionals. It's actually a big honor for me to be part of today's discussion, be part of the panel on a topic that strikes at the heart of how we as building architects, professionals, project managers, and other members of the building team deliver buildings, how we engage ourselves in that relationship between the team, which is ever evolving. I, as has been indicated, I'm a professional architect. I trained in Kenya, but I've also had the honor of training in other areas and practicing in other jurisdictions as well. So my presentation is on this particular topic. Talks about the a lot of the the conflicts that have necessitated this role of project manager to actually be divorced from that of the architect. But we know that traditionally architects were the leads in various project teams. And we all know that an architect can be a construction project manager. And both roles previously or traditionally were embodied in one individual. In fact, construction project managers can be drawn from many disciplines. But in this particular environment, that's the built environment. Most construction project managers are usually drawn from engineering, quantity surveying, other management professionals, and even architecture itself. Many successful project managers have had an architectural background, and many architects continue being at the forefront of the project management discipline. So the key question here is, where did the shift between these disciplines come from, given that many architects were actually already involved in project management? So my central argument is that the distinction lies more in the mindset than in professional qualifications. Historically, the architect embodied both roles, a creative lead and the practical overseer of delivery of the project. The classical master builder concept included both design and construction management responsibilities. So what has actually shifted is not the capacity of the architect to be a project manager or to lead constructively in managing the project, but the perception and expectations from clients and from the industry. In many cases, architects have held fast to design leadership, but have neglected project control, risk, and cost focus. Meanwhile, project managers, often from engineering or quantity surveying backgrounds, have aligned their services with clients' evolving demands. And most clients, as you know, are more fixated towards time, cost, and efficiency in delivering the project, which is always related to project program. Thus, the fragmentation hasn't necessarily been technical in terms of qualifications of the architect per se, but it has been a response to an industry where specialization is key. The fact that building projects are more complex and clients are more risk averse. This rightly centers attitude, adaptability, and systems thinking as the critical differentiator. So as an architect with a project delivery mindset, one can just be as effective as any project manager. So I'm not really unleashing a war on architects. What I'm saying is that architects, and it's been demonstrated in many contexts, architects have the capacity to lead very successful projects, but our leaning towards a more design-focused project involvement has actually shortchanged us when it comes to the current project scene. Okay, and so what I did is I've actually brought about certain projects, big case studies to illustrate situations where architect-led projects have failed spectacularly. So whereas many project failures are obscured due to legal and reputational concerns, several cautionary examples where architect-led models revealed deficiencies can be cited. In Kenya, for example, we have various upper hill mixed-use development projects which faced delays, overruns, attributed to loosely defined architect-led teams that lacked strong project management, procurement, and contractor coordination frameworks. Some of the projects stalled mid-development until professional project managers were brought in to stabilize delivery. A key example is Pinnacle Towers, a striking mixed-use twin tower planned as a signature skyscraper of about 320 meters height. Construction was halted with outstanding contractor debts exceeding 187 million shillings for materials alone. This stoppage required robust tender renegotiation, contract management, and stakeholder alignment commonly executed by project managers. Again, another project where we've had architects falling short is the 88 Nairobi condominium development, which is coming up. I'm not sure whether it's completed. I think it is. A 44-story residential tower, cost about 5.2 billion or 50 million US dollars, designed and awarded architecturally. Construction stalled around mid-2020 due to critical delays in council approvals. a case where efficient coordination and regulatory fast tracking, which are embodied, which are the core skills of project management, would have averted that issue. And this particular case cited in the Cyton report. You go to cytonreport.com. Also, the Upper Hill Roads infrastructure. This is not necessarily a project that is led by architects, but it represents various shortcomings in the approach where, you know, design and other issues are, you know, are put in preference to project management, scope, coordination, and stakeholder communication. Okay, so for Upper Hill, the delay was over three years delay, and it cost over 2 billion shillings to upgrade the roads in Upper Hill. You know, there were multiple timeline extensions. Okay, globally, we have the same issue with the Scottish Parliament in Edinburgh in the UK, designed by Enric Miralis. The project experienced cost overruns of over 40 million pounds, and the project ended up costing about 430 million pounds. While acclaimed architecturally, lack of robust project governance was widely criticized as behind the delays. The other one is the Berlin-Brandenburg Airport in Germany. While not led by an architect, it highlights design side dominance without effective project controls, leading to over a decade of delays. Okay, so these case studies show that architect-led efforts, particularly in design-heavy projects, can falter without the structured systems of risk management, procurement, coordination, and stakeholder liaison, regulatory compliance that professional project managers bring to the table. In each case, architectural vision was insufficient alone to deliver the project. Effective project governance was the missing link. So what is the key pattern here? We see in all these failed projects a lack of integration between design, vision, and delivery execution. Not necessarily architectural incompetence, and I'm not bashing an architects as such, but the absence of project systems, stakeholder engagement, and cost time disciplines, which by nature many architects have not mastered. So the question is, can architectural training remedy this? Yes, but only if we reform our curricula. Most architectural curricula still emphasizes design excellence and theory, often at the expense of project finance, construction law, procurement strategies, risk management, and leadership. These are core competencies in modern project delivery. So in my view, architectural training should integrate project management modules, for example, scheduling, budgeting, contract administration, simulate real-world interdisciplinary collaboration. Traditionally, architects have not been very good with collaborating with other professionals. I think in the current market, this calls for much better engagement and coordination with other disciplines. And that's why many clients are even calling for turnkey projects, so that synergy is amplified. And also encourage, client-centered thinking, including value engineering and life cycle costing. And also architects, architectural training needs to promote technology integration between BIM and project management software. So leading schools, architectural schools, for example, the Harvard GSD School of Design, Graduate School of Design, ETH Zurich, and even the University of Nairobi, as I understand, in more recent reforms, are embedding such multidisciplinary modules, but broader adoption is still needed. Okay, so with that in mind, I think we have certain issues which have also arisen because of the the shift of clients towards engaging project managers. And we saw that traditionally the building team was led by the architect, but the fact that project managers are coming in means that certain conflicts and tensions are also being experienced in various projects. Sometimes the architect may feel that they are losing control, they are losing leadership, they are losing fees, because obviously a scaled down involvement means lower or less lower amount of fees that they can claim. And also, we have issues like fragmentation and role ambiguity, overlapping responsibilities without clear boundaries between the project manager and architect can lead to conflicts, especially where the CPMs make design impacting decisions without sufficient architectural input. Sometimes the architects may feel they are being forced to do changes on their design, which may feel a bit personal sometimes. And many of us, we architects argue that this shift risks reducing buildings to mere functional commodities with diminished attention to design quality, context, and user experience. That is true, but again, buildings have become very much like products that have to fit a certain business plan in terms of costs and the cash flows that clients project to get from those buildings. Okay, so in closing, I have certain questions that I would pose to the audience. The first one is, how can architects reposition as strategic project leaders? What skills must architects develop to regain client confidence? I think we all know ourselves, and my own personal view is that we need to be more adept at finance and more structured thinking. And as I was introduced, I'm currently undertaking a master's program in finance and investment management, because those are some of the areas, through the many years of practice, I find I was not quite competent with. But as an architect who is approached by a client, you're sometimes expected to, talk about, feasibility and viability of various projects, and not necessarily the design excellence that you're presenting to your clients. So has the profession adapted to design build or EPCM methods? EPCM means engineering, procurement, and construction management methods. So most clients are now, especially for larger projects, are looking for more turnkey, where the design team and the architect, the engineers are all in one team. Okay, how do we balance design intent with CPM constraints? And for the project managers, how can CPMs foster collaborative environments? Are CPMs aware of long-term value of quality design? Why do clients prefer CPM-led structures? Okay, and for both architects and project managers, how do we develop a shared framework with clear decision boundaries? Which contract models promote better collaboration? Can early alignment reduce conflicts? Should education include PM modules? So these are some of the relevant topics, I think, which can stimulate our discussion today. With that, Mr. Chairman, I've ended my presentation. I will copy these questions into the chat so that you can pick them up and contribute to this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Architect Jacob Motanya. Thank you very much for your insightful input. For the attendees who are here, we are going to have a Q&A at the end of all the 4 presentations. I can see the questions are coming on the webinar chat, fast and furious. So at the end of the presentations, we'll have a Q&A session. So coming in next, I don't seem to see him here as a panelist. We have a panelist, project manager, who is supposed to be setting up the presentation next, and this is CPM. Just a minute. I think I'm seeing we are 6 of us. We have CPM Patrick Mwangi. Are you there? CPM Patrick Mwangi?
Yes,
I can
I'm
see
there.
you. Oh, you're there.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Good.
The person
CPM
to be speaking is CPM Stephen, and is
Sorry?
requesting to. The person to speak
Yes,
is CPM Stephen Kamau, and is
Stephen Kamau.
requesting for mic. Yeah.
Or he's requesting for mic. I think Maxi, are you able to give him the mic? You're the host. I'm seeing he's not probably we could go. Is it possible to go to CPM Irene? Are you ready? As Stephen Kamau is trying to get in. CPM Irene, oh, good. So
Yeah.
CPM Irene, Irene Wamuyu, is a practicing arbitrator and construction project manager. She has a master's and bachelor's degree in construction management and is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So welcome, CPM Irene, as a follow-up on the presentation that has just been done by architect Motanya. Welcome, and you can take it up from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this opportunity for us to collaborate and discuss. And thank you to Architect Motanya for the presentation. It was quite well thought out. Now, I'll start by saying we have to first understand where the construction manager or the construction project manager came from. If we are to have that conversation where we look at this as 2 distinct professions, and what the construction manager, the construction project manager is supposed to do, let me say construction project manager, because that's where the nexus or the issues where we are to separate our responsibilities comes from. We need to first understand, what do we expect from this construction project manager? We expect that they are able to have integration management. They are able to integrate projects so that everybody understands what is required of this project team. They are the basic. They're expected to lead this team, and they have to have a clear understanding of where everybody plugs in and what exactly they are supposed to be doing. They are supposed to have skills to manage the scope of the project so that you understand the client's brief quite well and you are able to manage the extent of the works as required by your client. They'll manage the schedule. We have schedule management. They're managing the time essentially, making sure that everything is done when it's supposed to be done. And there's a schedule that is drawn out from the beginning that everybody understands. They come in to manage the costs. We have cost management as the other tenant. We in the past, when you have had clients complain, they talk about sometimes the costs overrun what they expected. So this project manager is coming in to manage the costs. They're looking at what is the quality expected. Yeah? So what do we expect of this final product? And they're managing the quality of what eventually will be produced. They're looking at all the resources they are in, and and managing them. I think for me, the biggest and the one that is most practical and supreme is normally communication management, because a lot of construction issues arise from communication, issues that are not communicated properly. Where one thing is perceived by one party as something and the other party perceives it as something else. And this Skype moves on to become wrong selection of materials, wrong selection of what exactly is supposed to be done. Then you have risk management, which is also very important. Dealing with risks in construction, being able to forecast them, being able to see them. You're also dealing with procurement matters, procurement management, and especially those client procured materials or equipment. How do they get to the project in good time? And of course, stakeholder management, which is everybody who is associated with the project, be it government, be it the neighborhood, all the people working in that particular project. Now, all this in project management will have distinct reports on them in the beginning, and you have to have a plan on what is to be done. And I like what Architect Motanya said in terms of, then this means this individual must get trained in all these aspects. They must be able to come up with a risk register that works. They must understand cost control. They must be able to look at the quality of what is required versus the resources that we have. Because as we know, sometimes you can have clients that overshoot. In my experience, what I have seen is when I have worked with architects and they understand what the project manager brings to the table, they are very happy to let go of these aspects for them. They know these are not things that I want to deal with, and so therefore I have somebody else to give. Now, when we look at the flip side, when we look at what we have allowed, or what is in our laws in terms of what is described, at least in Cap 525, in terms of what exactly does an architect do, maybe we will have to amend or relook at these divisions so that we do not have issues where we, as the architect has said, where we are looking at the management aspects. Or I know the biggest conflict has been what happens with the management monies that, for example, used to go to the architect, and now you have a project manager on board. As we have seen, there are clients who have insisted that they need a project manager, either because they have seen the enormous task being placed on the architect in terms of thinking about the design, thinking about the product as will be constructed, vis-a-vis the management of all these other matters. The architect managing everybody else. And so that essentially was the beginning or the thought process, not just in this country, but of course the profession started elsewhere. In the US, they thought about those two roles as very distinct. You have to think about somebody else that thinks about the management of the project, as it may be. Now, in this country, of course, as we know, the architect is licensed as a professional, and they have that mandate to come up with the aesthetics and functionality, safety, and the compliance with the regulations of the building. We have not gotten to the point where we have licensed or regulated the construction project manager, but as we have seen, the construction project manager is already working. So they are working, and the regulation is following suit. So there's a draft bill that seeks to do the same. Well, as we've seen, the construction project manager will have to oversee the project. And as we talked about integration management, they have to have a clear picture. What does this entire project encompass? What is the life cycle of this project? How do we plan it? How do we complete? Who do we plug into the project? And we are seeing more and more clients embrace this aspect, that there is that particular individual who is able to look at the project in its entirety and know when one individual is supposed to be plugged in. As we know in this country, stakeholder management is one of those issues that can make or break a project. And we have seen clients appreciate this person who is able to do stakeholder mapping, this individual who is competent to do stakeholder mapping. They're able to rank these stakeholders and deal with them accordingly, so that the project is able to be implemented smoothly. And as I said, some architects are glad that somebody else is able to deal with that and deal with matters regarding the stakeholders. So when we look at the comparison of the functions of these two individuals, we are seeing the architect more and more being inclined towards dealing with issues of design, of course, the modeling as well as the implementation, so that what they designed is what is actually constructed. And then we are seeing the construction manager purely dealing with all operational aspects and making sure this project is completed within these tenets that I started by talking about: the integration management, scope management, schedule, cost, quality, resource, communications, risk, procurement, and stakeholder. So when I know the architect looked at education background and what is required for for the architects in particular to be able to get these skills. However, even as they add these skills, in fact, the conversation eventually even delves into the difference between engineers and construction project managers, because in this country we have seen engineers taking over and completing all engineering projects on their own, especially civil engineers. But as we look at the educational background, as the good architect did bring out, is that there is a serious focus on design matters and that are to the architects. And so if we are to ask them to onboard this responsibility, then there has to be an expansion in scope, which sometimes can have its own challenges. Myself being in the academic space, I can tell you that already that in itself has its weight, and especially when we compare to international standards, because a lot of the times we do look at best practices elsewhere. Elsewhere, we are separating those roles so that we remember in the past, the architect was that master builder who would be able to do everything. But slowly, we have been able to specialize the architect into matters design and aesthetic. For the construction project manager, globally, the degree in construction management has really taken shape, where you're able to get these tenets as what is guiding the profession. And that is what is used to educate, as well as bring in matters of all other professions, so that this individual is able to understand all aspects of the construction process. So you'll find that the construction manager is going to be trained on design matters, is going to be trained on cost matters, and is going to be trained on engineering aspects, basic engineering aspects, so that they can be able to understand what each of these profession is doing. We've seen locally various professions, including construction managers, have sought these project management certifications that are existing, especially from the project management professional body and from PMI, Project Management Institute. It's having various courses that are able to strengthen these aspects. Anyway, in conclusion, this these two professions are not supposed to be at loggerheads. They're supposed to be working together. Yeah? They're supposed to be built in a way that they are able to bring synergy to the built environment. Yeah? It is important for these two professions to be able to collaborate and work together so that the projects that they are involved in together are successful, and to understand the strength of each and every one of these professions in the built environment is very important. It's also important for them to understand the expectations of each of them in the project and to be able to communicate to each other. In fact, as I said, some clients are very keen on seeing that these two professions work together and succeed in the projects. Now, the other problem that is rising, either because of lack of regulation or a law for the project manager. In arbitration, when we have projects where you have project managers, currently their roles are becoming on paper only, because most of the contracts that we are signing are standard forms of contracts that are not inclusive in that regard. So we are slowly seeing the need to have either more flexible standard forms of contracts, or where parties are willing to amend these standard forms of contracts so that we are able to see the inclusion of the role of the construction project manager. I have seen the IQSK has come up with a standard form of contract that at least is able to include the project manager as is. And this will help in terms of even how we manage our projects and how best to see what is the best practice that is there globally, and how we are also meeting what our international colleagues are doing, and how we can best develop our industry as it may be. So in conclusion, there is the need to develop distinct roles for all of us. That means supporting the amendment of our various legislations and incorporation embracing the inclusion of the construction project manager in terms of the legislation and the bills, and even in the projects, allowing us to have very clear roles in our projects. There's need for collaboration between the architects and project managers, so that we advocate for each other in the industry that we are in. And there is need to align the design vision and the implementation of projects, so that we have successful projects that do not show that there is any issue to our clients when it comes to our distinct roles. Thank you so much. I think for some reason my screen is a bit dark, but I believe we have been able to communicate. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, CPM Irene Wamuyu, for that presentation. Now, some keywords I'm picking up: collaboration, complementing. I can see the questions are coming up fast and furious. Our next panelist is architect Irene Aguttu. Irene, are you on? Architect?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I would like to introduce architect Irene Aguttu. She's on the road. Architect Irene Aguttu is a distinguished architect and interior designer based in Nairobi, Kenya, with over 27 years of experience delivering transformative built environments across East Africa. Her work spans residential, hospitality, corporate, and institutional sectors, blending architectural vision with project management expertise to create spaces that are functional, sustainable, and beautifully crafted. A graduate of the University of Nairobi and a fluent fluent speaker of English and Swahili with working proficiency in French. Irene is a registered architect with the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors, BORAX, and an active leader within the Architectural Association of Kenya, AAK. She has served as chairperson of AAK's Interior Designers Chapter and currently sits on the Governing Council. She also contributes to professional advancement through her roles with the Architects Alliance, who are our host today, the Architects Alliance, Women in Real Estate, and the Federation of Women Entrepreneurs in Kenya. Irene brings a deep understanding of the full project life cycle from design and build to on-site supervision, budget control, and stakeholder coordination. Her portfolio includes high-profile developments such as the Panari Sky Center, Villa Rosa Kempinski Spa, Kenya Airways Pride Center, and numerous luxury residences and office spaces. Her work is recognized for its design, integrity, material intelligence, and sensitivity to context. Passionate about inclusive, practical, and local responsive design, Irene is a strong advocate for integrated project delivery, women's leadership in construction, and innovation in architecture across the global South. So welcome, Architect Irene. Please take us through. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Architect Keega. First, I would like to point out that I'm on the road, so I'm actually taking this from the car, but I believe that I'm visible and also audible. So the first thing I would like to appreciate is the two presentations before us. Architect Motanya, you did a fantastic job of outlining and highlighting the projects that have demonstrated failure, where the architect-led projects that have demonstrated failure across, different jurisdictions, and the numbers. Because usually any discussion, if there's no data to support, the discourse, then we are just talking. So that is very much appreciated. CPM Irene, thank you very much for pointing out the weak points and the areas that need collaboration and strengthening where the two professions are concerned, and the need for regulation. Both you and I have been quite involved in the battle, for lack of a better word, for the regulation of what is erroneously referred to as emerging professions, where construction project management is included. Now, I have the benefit of actually being able to speak to this topic from the perspective of being not just an architect, but an interior designer and a contractor rolled into one. So for that reason, by default, for no other reason but default, I have found myself in project management roles that have given me a 360 view of exactly where the challenges have emerged. We are all speaking about project management from the perspective of managing the consultants on the board, but we have not delved into the management of the contractor on site, which is a challenge, a very big challenge in itself. So if we are to begin, it's normally very prudent to start from the beginning. So for any project to even be a subject of discussion, there has to have been a vision. And this vision comes from the client, who defines very clearly what it is they want out of this project, what it is they want this project to be, and what the desired outcomes out of this. The vision bearer, without a doubt, is ordinarily the architect, because the client speaks to the architect first to demonstrate, to outline and really define their desires for the outcome of the project. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that without the architect's input there is no project. So then traditionally, I would like to take us back. It's always good to start from the beginning. The architect bore the responsibility of not just bearing the vision, the client's vision. The architect bore the responsibility of designing the design process for the outcome, to the desired outcome of the client, because at the end of the day, the client will only pay for their desired outcome. And only once we had, and this I'm still speaking traditionally, it is only after we had come up with a vision that met the client's dreams and aspirations, that we then began to onboard and speak to the rest of the consultants required on the project. Traditionally, that was the process. So if we look at it pragmatically, and of course, once all the other consultants came on board, we are talking about the QS, we are talking about the structural engineer. Actually, the structural engineer would come first to design the structure before the QS comes in, the civil engineer, mechanical, so that all these designs come together. The design process is resolved to high levels that the QS then can come in and consequently cost the project traditionally. Now, what would then happen is that the architect would manage the entire process, from managing the client at the beginning, managing the design process, managing the onboarding of the other consultants, managing the processes of their submission of their own designs, managing the process of tendering, of bringing in the tender, whatever, the whole tender process, managing the QS to make sure that costings are done on time, managing the reaction of the client to the costing, managing the variations that come out of cost engineering, managing the contractor when the contractor gets on site, managing the construction process to make sure that the project is delivered on time. Now, this only worked when projects were smaller. We are now dealing with much, much bigger projects. To be honest, that whole responsibility cannot be put on the shoulders of one person. What am I saying? I am essentially saying that the place of the construction project manager has matured. We are in a place, we're in a space where what the construction manager is coming in to do for the project is very, very valuable. And I've spoken about this before as an architect, that a lot of the time we may not say it, but we really do appreciate the input of the construction project manager, only if they're doing what they are supposed to do. We really do appreciate that. And especially so when it comes to managing the client, because we all know that one of our biggest impediments in any project is the client. Usually say, oh, this project failed because the consultants were not well coordinated. Nobody ever looks and says, was the client doing the right thing the whole time? Was the client making big payments on time? Was the client, there's always information that comes from the client side. Was it being delivered on time? Because the client is the paymaster, blame is hardly ever put on them. And that is a process that the architect has been managing traditionally. Come in the project manager, the construction project manager, and you have taken this off our hands, including the principle of babysitting the client, emotions rising high, being a marriage counselor, being a psychiatrist, trying to read minds and that sort of thing. This interferes with what we as architects essentially are supposed to be doing for the project, which is to bear the vision of the project. Now, when it comes to coordinating the rest of the consultants, that too becomes a challenge for the architect, because all these works of coordination ties you to one project. And this I'm speaking from experience. You take on a single project and you spend all your time hoping, of course, that you have delivered on the vision. As a vision bearer, you've delivered on the designs to completion and to complete resolution. Now your hands are tied in terms of onboarding the structural engineer, onboarding the civil engineer, onboarding the mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, making sure that their drawings and their designs are resolved to the client's satisfaction, onboarding the interior designer. And guess what? We don't get paid for that. We really don't. Because this whole process of coordination to the client looks like a service that should be delivered, offered and delivered at no cost. Because yes, we have the vision. So now we are going to build. So the project manager has come in, and they've come in with their own fee note to take this process off our hands. And as an architect, I will say this, I am grateful for that. Because trying to justify an additional cost to the client for coordination of the consultants has always been an uphill task. You're still fighting back there about your 6%. Nobody wants to pay you for coordination. Enter the contractor. I am one of them, but I can tell you that we are a headache. Managing fundis is not a joke. Guess what? In the past, that was the architect's responsibility. Because essentially, as we all know, most of the contractors that we work with in this country are not even trained. They are not even trained for what they do. You will find that contractors are teachers, their training is teachers, accountants, all manner of things apart from construction. So here you are as an architect who is very conversant with how the process should go, managing somebody who is oblivious and who just is interested in getting paid, not so much on delivery. Enter the construction project manager. We are happy to have you do that job. So these two professions really need each other. Without the architect's vision, the construction project manager has no project because there is no project. But the running of the project essentially should be done by somebody else apart from the architect, because we cannot afford to be going forward, tying ourselves to one project per year. What I'm saying is when an architect finds themselves also being the project manager, you're not able to take on additional projects for the duration of time that they, because your hands are tied and you're not really getting paid the value for your time. Now, when it comes to the collaboration between the two, it is indeed very, very important. And this is something I've observed on site, that the construction project manager comes in and they have the overview picture of what this project, not so much what it should look like, but how it is going to run and the end results. And usually it's just about timelines and cost overruns. So the construction project manager becomes the, because now they're the bridge between the rest of the consultants and the client. So the construction project manager then becomes the client's first point of reference. Nothing wrong with that. But the challenge only comes in when the construction project manager does not fully digest the vision, the architect's vision. And that's where conflicts begin. You find that the construction project manager does not quite understand this design. Remember, when the conversation began, the client was speaking directly to the architect. This is what I want. I want a 5-bedroom house. I want 3.5 toilets. I want this, I want that, I want the other, and I want the other. Usually, after the vision has been born and it's approved on the table, is when the client now says, okay, I think I need a project manager now. The construction project manager was not part of the vision. What am I trying to say? It is very, very important and critical to have the construction project manager on the project from the onset to understand the vision, as it were, so that even as the project runs its course, the project lifespan, sorry, then the construction project manager is very, very aware of even what the variation orders are, how far away it is from the original vision, and what the implications of that would be. Why is this important? Because when the final product eventually does come out and the client is not happy with the result, who takes the blame? Architects in the house? You all know how this game plays out. It then becomes the architect's responsibility that this did not go well. While as a matter of fact, during that whole process, the architect was not running the project. The project was being done by the construction project manager, who by that time is listening more to the client than to the architect, who bore the vision in the first place. Variation orders are made without making reference to the architect. When there's failures on site, when solutions, sanitary solutions, etc., fail on site, it goes back to the architect. For the simple fact that at the moment, the construction project manager is not yet regulated. That then creates a lacuna, because the full responsibility and indemnity then goes to the architect. And for me, it is not so much about the process on site, but it is about these other loopholes, these other legalities and loopholes, because we are giving a very huge responsibility to a construction project manager who takes no indemnity for decisions that they have made. Not so much out of ignorance or anything else. It is because there is no legal framework that guides the practice of the construction project manager. So in conclusion, I believe, and I totally and completely appreciate and encourage the role of the construction project manager on any given project. But my insistence is this profession needs to be regulated. This profession needs to be able to take indemnity for decisions made on site. And this profession needs to align from the beginning with a vision bearer, who is the architect. I think I'll stop there for now, but I'm happy to take more questions as we go along. Thank you, Architect Keega.
Thank you very much, Architect Irene, for that presentation. You've raised a very, very key pointers, challenge to architects. I've seen questions coming in. Without wasting much time, I'd like to introduce our final panelist, the construction project manager, who is CPM Stephen Kamau. Are you there, Steve?
Yes, I'm there. Hi.
Steve? Good.
Yes, hi. Yes, I can see you.
Okay. Let me introduce Steve. Steve is the head of project management of the project management office at the Lake Turkana Wind Power. He has a Master's of Arts in Construction Management from the University of Nairobi and a Bachelor's of Construction Management from the University of Nairobi and Prince 2 certification. Thank you very much, CPM Stephen Kamau. Karibu sana. Take us from here.
Right. Thank you so much, Architect Keega. I hope you can clearly see me. My name is Stephen Kamau, and as you said, currently I'm the head of project management office at Turkana Wind Power. Here we generate electricity, and we do about 17% of the entire country consumption. It's produced from here. So we are a key infrastructural support to the Kenya power grid. That's said and done. I have a background in housing. I also have a lot of experience in mining. That's where I just came from. And I also now have quite some experience in power generation and reticulation. As you said, my background is in construction management, and I'll speak from a little bit of a different perspective. And I really appreciate my predecessors who just did justice to the topic. They have done quite a good job, and I even risk repeating some of the things they have done. So I'll try as much as possible so that I don't end up repeating what they have said. For me, I have a little bit of a different perspective because I've practiced project management outside Kenya for quite some time, and I got the advantage of seeing things from the other side of the world. And I can tell you some of these things that we may perceive like conflicts here, especially in our local industry. They're not really conflicts. One of the biggest problem I can, when I look at the structure of our construction industry, is that they are very small projects. So that's why the meat is very small, and you understand the rule of the jungle. When the meat is too small, you see all the animals will try to fight for something. So that is literally figuratively. But what I mean is that the kind of projects that we do here are quite small. Mostly they are building projects. So you find every person wants to have control of what is happening. The architect wants to run the show. He wants to be the designer. He wants to be the manager. He wants to be everything. The builder also comes in with his own attitudes. And of course, the project manager will also come with his own controlling attitude. So at the end of the day, you find there are so many conflict points within the project. But I can tell you part of the problem is because these projects are too small. And most of the time, you also find that the fees are quite competitive. But from experience, having worked outside Kenya, I can tell you, and having worked in big projects, like the project I came from last year, I think our annual budget was about 15 billion US dollars. It's actually the biggest iron ore mine in the world. So I can tell you that when you're working on such kind of a project, you're even looking for more hands to support you. You don't even care what title people come with, as long as you can get more hands on the deck to support you in different areas, because you're dealing with different work fronts. You have an airport to deliver, you have a railway line, you have a mining infrastructure to deliver, you have accommodation facilities. So you have a big portfolio of projects, and you're looking for everybody who can come and support you. In that kind of a setup, you don't expect the architect to be the project manager, because he cannot, even the responsibility of managing the design in itself is, he cannot even do it on his own. So in that kind of a setup, when you're dealing with large scale projects, that's where now you bring in the project managers, and below the project managers, you position the construction managers, you position other people we call project planners. Unfortunately, in this country, because I'm saying most of the projects we have here are not quite big, so you find there are no roles like for project planners, and below project planners, we have project schedulers. I've had the advantage of working as a project planner before, and I can tell you in that role itself, specializing as a project planner or specializing as a project scheduler who is even below the project planner, that role in itself has a lot. It involves a lot of responsibility and a lot of duties. So there is need for collaboration between different professionals. It's not just architects and construction managers, but also architects, construction managers, engineers, because you integrate, you interact in all these projects. There is a necessity of establishing a framework of operation, or what I may call the SOP, this the standard of operations within our industry, because there is no point of you as a construction manager trying to be an architect. That's what I keep on telling construction managers. Don't think that because you know how to use ArchiCAD or you have been trained in some basic form of design, you can become an architect. You're not an architect. Neither are you a structural or a civil engineer. You have a specific role and you have a specific niche in the industry. Looking at the Kenyan industry, by the fact that Kenyan industry does not have a framework right now that expressly recognizes the existence of a construction manager, it doesn't mean that you don't have a role. And that's why I tell people, think outside the country, because here we still have a very, very traditional way of doing things, a very archaic way and a very uninformed way of handling projects. But looking outside there, you will actually understand that the project manager has a very huge niche, and there is absolutely no conflict with the architect. The architect has his own design. He will deal with design issues. They are good enough. They keep him busy day and night. So he doesn't have even he doesn't even have time to go and deal with coordination with the clients, coordinating consultants, coordinating construction on site. So, and there are two roles that you can take as a construction manager. First of all, you can either become a project manager who is dealing with the client, like what I'm doing today. I'm a project manager working for the client. Right now, below me, I have quite a number of projects. I have a big project portfolio. And below me, I have architects working for us as consultant. And I also have architects internally. We have engineers internally, So that is one role where you act as a project manager for the client. But there is also a very important role that people ignore. Being a construction manager for a contractor. In fact, if somebody would ask me, I will tell you, you are better positioned as a construction manager for a contractor. And when I say a contractor, I'm not talking about those NCA4, NCA5, NCA3 contractors who just take very small size kind of a project. I'm talking about a serious contractor. Like one contractor, I think one contract we had last year was, I think, 355 million US dollars. That's quite huge. It's almost 40 billion Kenya shillings. Managing that even as a contractor, you need a number of construction managers. And I think that contractor had like 35 construction managers. And below them, they are deputy construction managers. And below them, they are site managers. And below them, they are foremen. So depending on the scale of the projects and depending on the size of the farm that you're looking at or the company that you're looking at, a construction manager can be comfortably positioned to work for a contractor, and you make your living out of it. And what do you do when you work for a contractor? First of all, you will help a lot in project planning. Because once you have a project, let's say, for example, you're doing a railway from here to Uganda. That is a project scope. But you can't, you have to approach that thing with a planner's mindset. You have to look at what deliverables do I need to do. Then you have to look at how many sections can I apportion these to, right? And then once you look at those sections, you can break down those deliverables to minimum deliverables, and then you can do, of course, you can form your human resource and your teams and all these kind of things and allocate them. Then the other most important thing is mobilizing resources. Procurement is such a huge thing, because when you are procuring for 40 billion worth of a project, that's not a small job. Procurement in itself, probably you'll have a whole team with over 100 people. You have people who are dealing with the sourcing, you have people who are dealing with the payments and confirmation, and you also have other people who are dealing with logistics. So there is a huge spectrum of activities that the construction manager can do within the contractor's setup, without necessarily going to fight for a niche with the architects and those kind of things. Then, as I said before, the construction manager can also work as a project manager representing the client. And even on that front, you don't need to fight with architects. No, they have their niche. They are there. They will do the concept, because as one of the presenters said, I think it was Irene Aguttu, she talked about the architect being the vision bearer. That's very true. Because even me, when I'm doing a project here, I call the architect, I tell them what I want. Then they help me to conceive what I want. And then from there, they will help me to conceptualize in terms of a concept, and they will also drive the other stages of design. But the project manager will also come along and help the architect, because the architect cannot be everything. Days are gone when the architect used to be the master builder. Nowadays, there is nothing you can master build. Things are so complex. Technologies are coming up. There is a lot of stuff. If you, as an architect, you pretend to be the project manager and to be everybody, I'm telling you, you can only focus on one project. And mark you, it's not like your fee is going to increase. You still be paid the same fee. So you'll be busy doing nothing or busy earning nothing. So I think days are gone when we used to have those kind of setups. So the kind of setup right now we have is that the project manager can come in, represent the client, help you to form the team as an architect, bring in all other consultants, help you to procure for to manage the entire design process, because design process, especially when you're dealing with complex projects, is also a very complex whatever in itself. I've worked before. I remember I worked for one of the biggest architects in Kenya. I was actually an in-house project manager managing design studio. Because even in studio itself, it's not just like somebody just wakes up, comes up with a concept and takes it to the contract. For the serious firms, they have procedures and protocols. So in that in itself, they saw it was necessary for them to get a construction manager to help them as a project manager to manage the entire design process. So that's why I'm saying even managing the entire design process is also a huge task for the architect. And again, when it comes to procurement of contractors, tendering, evaluation of tenders and all these kind of things, the architect will also require the project manager to come in and help together, of course, with other consultants like the quantity surveyors, like the engineers, utilities engineers, and all other professionals that are related to that kind of a task. And then once procurement of a contractor has been done, supervision of that construction on site becomes another key fundamental role of a project manager. But it's very important to demarcate the extent of risk, because somebody just mentioned about risk and liabilities and things like that. As a project manager, even when I'm supervising even big or small projects, I always make sure that there are certain responsibilities that I will not take. That means there are certain instructions that I will not give. Like, for example, I will not go and tell people to start changing the space plan, or let's say start changing the facade or a specification. If I see there is a problem, because many times you see there's a space plan that is not making sense, I will just give the phone, a call to the architect, ask him what's up, what's going on here? This one is not adding up. And the architect will look at that. If it makes sense to change, they will change. If it's something that just needs an explanation, they will explain, and they will issue an instruction, because at the end of the day, they take the liability. So you as a project manager, it's not your duty to take their job. You don't go there to start issuing instruction. The same case like when I was, I just finished an airport project. And when I was working there, the civil engineer now becomes the key consultant. So every instruction that I have to give, if I feel, okay, fine, this runway, there is something that is not adding up in this runway. Or let's say this apron, there is something that is just not okay. There's a culvert, there's an outfall, there is this, there is that. If I feel there is something that is not making sense, the first point of contact is the civil engineer. I'll have to talk to him. He will either give an explanation or he'll give a counter instruction. And then from there, he takes liability. So there is a very clear demarcation of responsibility, unless you are the type of a person who always want to invade other people's jobs. But if you stay to your lane, I don't think there is any reason why you should have conflict. So those are just some of the highlights that I've seen, and I've spoken more from my own experience. And I believe there is enough niche for all these professionals, because outside, just open your mind, look at the wider spectrum. Don't confine yourself to the simple structures that we have here locally. Look outside there, look at what other people are doing. There are so many other professionals that you can take. There are so many other jobs, because this specialization now is the key thing when it comes to construction. So we no longer now talk about the quantity surveyors only. We talk about the cost engineers. We talk about sometimes front-end consultants. We talk about, there are different professionals under quantity surveyors. Then when you go to civil engineering, there is also a lot of other professionals that fall under civil engineering. So we have to accept that the world has grown, the industries have grown, and we have to grow together with them. Otherwise, we'll be left behind and we become obsolete. All right, I'm done with my presentation. Thank you. If you have a question, just put it on the sidebar.
Yes, Stephen Kamau. We've had 4 panelists, and we are now going to a Q&A. I would like to encourage us to discuss this in as much detail as we can, and going to assist myself here as a co-moderator. I am privileged to introduce CPM Patrick Mwangi. CPM Patrick Mwangi will handle the Q&A. And I would like to encourage us to keep our questions coming. I myself have 1 or 2, but I'll post them later. So CPM Patrick Mwangi is a graduate of the Technical University of Kenya with a bachelor. He's a construction manager and researcher in sustainable housing and infrastructure. He's head of communication, marketing, and corporate affairs for the Association of Construction Project Managers of Kenya. And he's a construction project manager with Rickfes Construction Limited. CPM Patrick, are you can take up from here. CPM Patrick? Please unmute your mic.
Sorry, I hope you can see me.
Yes, good. We've had several questions coming in. So you could direct these questions to our panelists so that we can get them answered right from the way they came in. And to our attendees, please keep those questions coming. Karibu sana, CPM Patrick. You can take up from there. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I had something a little bit to add, so I think I'll just add it after Q&A. So,
Please, sorry, please check your audio.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, better now.
Okay. So say I had something a little bit to add, but I'll just move forward after the Q&A. So just to get right to it, I don't see many questions. I think there are around 4. So please type in the questions. If maybe you want to remain anonymous, just type them to the host and be able to read them out. The first one is from a construction manager, Rob Gakumo. He's asking, what do professionals think about the idea of separating the discipline of construction management as an undergraduate training? Will it perhaps have been better to retain it as a postgrad, given the confusion many CM undergrads face trying to find entry-level jobs, only ending up doing duties more associated with QS and architecture training? I would like architect, I'm looking for architect Jacob and CPM Stephen to answer the question. Sorry, was I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. I'm checking. I don't see Jacob online, but we could, any of our panelists can take it up. I can see Stephen, architect Irene. Yep.
Patrick, can you repeat the last part of your question, please?
Yeah, let me just repeat the whole question. What do you professionals think about the idea of separating the discipline of construction management as an undergraduate training? Will it perhaps have been better to retain it as a postgrad, given the confusion many CMs undergrad face trying to find entry-level jobs, only ending up doing duties more associated with QS and architecture training?
Right. Thank you, Patrick. In my opinion, and I'll borrow from what other developed jurisdictions have done, and specifically, let's say like UK and South Africa, who are way ahead of us. I would say that we retain it. It should be retained as undergraduate and postgraduate. What we need is to disseminate information more, educate our students more, let them know that they are not learning to become foremen, neither are they learning to become architects or engineers. There is a specific niche for construction managers. I think what we need is to give them the right information, because even some of the lecturers that used to teach us at University of Nairobi, I remember during undergraduate, they also didn't seem to have an idea what construction management is. I think for them it was too theoretical, and I think they just found themselves, because most of them were QSs, so they just found themselves teaching something which they didn't even have an idea. But I think with the right information, students should not be worried, because there is a huge niche for construction manager. It has been done in other countries. I don't know why it should be different in our own.
Let's hear another perspective from Architect Jacob. You're back. Are you able to hear the question?
Yeah, sorry, I lost my connection. Would you quickly recap? I missed the question. I've just rejoined the meeting, if you don't mind.
Okay. Question reads, what do you professionals think about the idea of separating the discipline of construction management as an undergraduate training? Will it perhaps have been better to retain it as a postgrad, given the confusion many CMs undergrads face trying to find entry-level jobs, only ending up doing more associated duties in QS and architecture training?
Yeah, to me, as I'd said in my presentation, many construction project managers have a background in the construction professions. So again, we heard about specialization. My view is that to be a successful construction project manager, you need to have a certain footing or a certain base in the construction environment, so that at least you have a certain understanding, broad understanding of what happens in the construction industry. But again, looking at the nature of the construction industry, where there is evolution towards more specialized roles, there's also a space for construction managers who actually have a certain speciality in management, be it cost management or engagement, stakeholder engagement. So to me, it's not a situation where there's one mold that fits all the construction project managers. So in terms of training, I think we need to have an opportunity for those who are already registered in the built environment disciplines, architecture, quantity surveying, and engineering, to have some sort of postgraduate training in project management, which then they can come back and integrate in their practice. But we also have a need for specialized project managers who, right from the time they join college, they can get into that field and master certain niche within the construction industry. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Can you confirm if you are well answered? What the Kumu? Still in the discussion. Let's put up a comment. I'm trying to trace the next question. Someone asked.
CPM Patrick, your audio, sorry, your audio is not good. We keep you're breaking.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's better now, but before it had gone off. Yeah, all right.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. If you are still in the chat, just confirm if you are well answered. Link on the text to proceed to test the next question. Please keep them coming. We have like about 20 minutes. So someone asked, I think in the beginning of session, I think he was trying to press why is he avoiding to mention structural management as a discipline rather than management discipline? I think I missed that. If you can say what is happening at that point.
Sorry, your sound is still a bit off, kindly.
Yeah, I think if I can come in, I'd seen that question. The question was, why was I avoiding referring to the CPM as a profession? And I just clarified that, you know, by project manager, I was actually referring to a construction project manager, which is a discipline on its own, and also which is a discipline that other members of the building team, if they have that inclination and attitude, can also join, if I would put it that way.
Thank you. This one has come up from CPM Joel Mobile. He asks, could we utilize the BIM tools 2D up to 8D as a tool of overall collaboration? What if everyone works within the tenets of BIM? Wouldn't we get collaborated eventually? It takes Irene, are you available for that?
Thank you, Patrick, and PM Joel for that question. I think yes, as we know, BIM is not locally crafted. It is an international tool, and so therefore it has allowed all these inputs as globally recognized. And so therefore, for those who choose to adopt BIM and its tenants, of course, we are able to understand that everybody has their own role, and the two, or everybody's role. Let's not just put it to architects and construction project managers. Everybody's role is very clear within that setting, and therefore collaboration is very, very easy. And we eventually will be able to understand where we all fall in projects. So yes, I think it is possible. But the question is, how many, as PM Kamau was putting it, what scale of projects are we having so that we are able to integrate BIM tools? I think it is the levels of projects that will allow us to make it financially feasible for us to have BIM in our projects. That's just my 2 cents on it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think if I could add something on that, well, BIM, okay, if you look at any project, there, you know, the kind of like spectrum of interactions goes beyond, you know, design coordination between the, you know, between the professional team. And by that, I mean the architects, engineers, cost consultants, QS, and so on. And that's where, you know, BM tools can really make the process more efficient and obviously have benefits in terms of time, coordination, and so on and so forth. But beyond BIM, you know, there is stakeholder engagement. There is integration with approvals, municipal authorities, environmental approvals and engagements, managing the cost issues, cost items, engaging with contractors on decisions regarding costs and all of that, engaging with other stakeholders. For example, you might have a local community that wants to have certain contractual roles in the project, and if they are not, if certain, you know, local labor is not incorporated in the project, it will cause delays through protests and so on. So BIM cannot cover all of those engagements. We still need to have an individual who has that broad, you know, skill-based skill set to engage with all the, you know, all the complex factors which arise in any project. Okay. There's also another question which had seen, you know, where I think CPM Irene was, I mean, there was a question directed saying that why doesn't she call a spade, you know, where, you know, construction project managers are taking over the role of lazy architects. I mean, I wouldn't say there are no lazy architects, but I don't think that would be the, you know, the appropriate word to use. I would probably say, you know, certain architects are not inclined to handle certain, you know, tasks within, you know, the project, as architect Irene pointed out, you know, engaging with contractors, engaging with subcontractors, you know, trying to manage costs on the project where the cost management may impact on the vision or on the design of the architect, or sometimes cutting costs may interdict the architect's design, or you know, where the architects may feel that he's not being given the chance to express himself, and you know, so there's that conflict of interest between cost and design, and I think that's where the role of a construction manager as a independent arbiter would come in, you know, where he would look at costs on their own merit, whereas the architect would look at the design and vision of the project. Yeah, so I mean, using the word lazy may not be the correct terminology, but of course, I'm not saying that there are no lazy architects, but I don't think that's the focus of this discussion.
Yes, just to add to what you've said, architect, I looked at that and asked myself, are we saying that across the board, all architects have become lazy? That may not be the case. As you have said, we are living in a world of specialization where this master builder, there's a time that the architect or this master builder was everything. They were the architect, they were the QS, they were the engineer, and they looked at, and they had to look at this project and deliver as this one person. And as time has gone on and we have expanded, our scope has greatly increased. We are looking at technologies, we are looking at complex builds. There was a need to now specialize and remove all these tasks from the master builder and leave this one individual with just the design role. And so we find ourselves, as CPM Stephen has said, and architect Aguttu, in the world of specialization, where we are looking at now these tasks being broken down and being given to other individuals, so that the architect doesn't have to carry the load alone and focus on this one project that continues to pile on them. Every single issue is ask the architect. Yeah, the civil engineer has not come to site. Ask the architect why they have not shown up. We don't have specifications from the mechanical engineer. Let's call the architect. Sometimes the architect also has their role to play and they have their own production to do. And so we are living in that world and we cannot divorce ourselves from it. And so we are finding a lot of architects, of course, with that increased scope, if I'm to be the devil's advocate in this, quite overwhelmed. Yeah, I have been in projects where I've represented the contractor and you can actually tell that this architect is overwhelmed. They are not able to keep up with the evolving nature of the project, and especially for big projects or in our context, sometimes just simple projects, about 500 million projects, become very overwhelming to this one person and they're not able to catch up. So you'll find a lot of clients midway are forced to bring in a project manager. I'm sure almost all of us have seen that. We've started projects where you have the lead consultant as the architect, and then as time goes by, you have this other person who is brought in, may not necessarily be called a construction project manager. They could even be called project coordinator. Others will bear the name construction project manager. And now there are issues regarding that shift in responsibility. And from where I see it as an arbitrator, you find that a lot of those issues now come to arbitration, because in the beginning, you had the architect who was taking over everything, who was carrying the burden of shepherding this project. Halfway through, there was somebody else who was brought in. There's an issue of responsibility, what fell on who. At some point, the pot was left. The architect decided, look, this responsibility has been taken away from me. I cannot follow it. However, there's a contract that has been signed. They remain the lead consultant. And so the new project coordinator or construction project manager who comes in the middle, there was no variation of that contract in any way in terms of responsibility. And so these are issues we are grappling with on a daily. So I would not necessarily call them lazy. Some are overwhelmed. There could be a few lazy ones. But the situation is, as we cannot now decide. We have to look at it from that lens that as scope increases, as projects become complex, probably we have to embrace this role. Thank you.
I will also just throw in my 2 cents on that discussion.
Thank you.
In summary, just to summarize what everybody has said, no, there are no lazy architects. And I will come out very strongly about that. What has happened is that architects have now realized their value. We manage projects for which that aspect of the project we do not get paid for. So CPMs, we are concentrating on what we get paid for. We are creating jobs for you. So please, we are doing you guys a service. We are not lazy. That I refuse to take on. Thank you.
Thank you, Architect. I was looking forward to actually welcoming you to close on that. I think it's well in. Allow me to move to the next question.
Sorry, CPM. I want to throw a spanner in the works from where I sit as an architect. Not that I agree entirely with that the architect has become lazy, but I tend to think that the architect has let some key responsibilities that should be their responsibilities to go where the project entirely, the life cycle is not only the design. So we've had situations whereby the architects have focused on the technical matters, and we are in an economy where we're in a time where there's a lot of financial implications in projects where any decision, any line you put has an implication on cost. I have a lot of my colleagues who, when it comes to cost, they say, oh, hiyo ni maneno ya QS. I have also a lot of colleagues who would do all these fantastic designs, and at the point of implementation, you find that they're very costly. So we've had to operate within that. So in my opinion, and what I would like to encourage my colleagues, is not that we are like in competition, but this profession of construction project management has come to assist architects. But I would like to encourage our members, architects. Let's take it head on and take the leadership, because I would look at I had the two project managers saying about projects that became overwhelming for the architect. But I work in a firm where we have distinct roles. Someone deals with interior design, a colleague deals with landscape, and then we have someone who purely deals in the office, an architect, about project management. So it's not, I would tend to say 70-30 support the fact that that point that the architect has become lazy, because we find even, and the PMs here can bear me witness, the technical details come from the architect. You know, what will the project, what is it? And it goes so far that at the point of detailing, at the point of execution, the lapses usually come from architects not being there to put things together. And that's just my thinking. So I'm just throwing a spanner in the works for guys to respond. In my thinking, I would almost entirely support that notion that the architect has become lazy. Only that maybe the word to use is not lazy, could be overwhelmed. Thank you. Your mic, PM.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you for that. I believe it's now in order. If there is any further clarification needed, can just post in the chat. Let me attend to the question by Jonathan Lutar, who asks, owing to the numerous delays, especially in public projects, do you think it's necessary to have a legislation that stipulates compulsory engagement of CPMs in both private and government project delivery? For instance, benchmarking with the UK, where there is a government-led project delivery methodology, that is Prince 2, that guides public project delivery programs. I like this one attended to by CPM Wamuyu and architect Aguttu.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, for the owner of the question. I'm not sure who that is, but yes, there is that push to have construction project managers in government. And so currently we are working on the establishment into Ministry of Public Works, so that CPMs are actually employed in government, yeah, just like the landscape architects are and the interior designers. So we are working on that, but yes, there is a need so that we have this professional who is able to look at public projects and see where the problem is, because as we know, the statistics are bad. I think the last time we are talking about only about 15% of government projects are finished on time, and we're looking now at both levels of government. We know the capital intensity of infrastructure projects, and we look at just about 15%. And for me, I think it was a very generous figure to even give it at 15%, but we are not doing well. And so part of the problem solving that has been there, based on the various reports that have come out, is that there's a need to have this particular professional who is trained in managing of projects to get into government projects and see how best they can be done. I know there are a number of colleagues or those who are trained in construction project management currently employed at the Ministry of Housing. They're the ones who have the affordable housing mandate. They have been able to perform well, and so the government is slowly embracing the role of construction managers in government. Thank you.
I will chime into that so that we can, round it off. For the profession of construction project management to be incorporated into government projects, it must first be recognized. Currently, the government does not quite recognize construction project management amongst other professions. We also the debacle when the National Building Code started itself towards its launch without these professions being recognized. So there's recognition, and then there is regulation. And I believe that construction project management, like all other professions in the built environment industry, needs to self-regulate. What we can have is an overarching built environment act to oversee all the professions under one umbrella, and then each and every profession to then self-regulate. And that does not exclude construction project management. So at the end of the day, for construction project management to be included legitimately into public utility projects, into government projects, it must be recognized, it must be regulated, and more importantly, there must be responsibility, indemnity from the professions within from the practicing professions to take responsibility for their decisions in such projects. That would be my take.
Okay, thank you. Is there any one panelist maybe you'd like to jump in and say something on it before I move to the next question? Okay, we have a question by Charity Kimani, which I would like to be addressed by Architect Kanga. How do we currently define the boundary between design intent and constructability decisions?
Yeah, thank you very, very much, CPM. I see the question asking about the boundary between design intent and constructability decision. You know, I look at it as anything intent is what is in your mind as a designer architect. Now that that boundary essentially shouldn't exist, because you essentially cannot design something that either cannot be built or cannot be paid for in construction. So to Charity, I think the more that we are able to clear that boundary between the design intent and constructability, those decisions, the more, as I would tend to think that this is a question directed at architects, the more we become better architects, where what we design can be built and can be, of course, definitely paid for in a prudent manner by our clients. So I don't know whether that answers it, but in my opinion, I think actually it has been a very big issue with us as architects, where in school we're all trained to be all fancy and all. The success of your design was as to how I would say beautiful or good looking it was, but we realized that in practicability in the market, it needs to be built. So it has to be built and at a cost. So all those are the things that have come now to play practically out here. So I think that's my take on it, CPM. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, CPM. Stephen, anything to add on that as a construction project manager?
I think architects are dreamers, and you know they will give you all these kind of fancy ideas and concepts. But again, that's where after that the construction manager becomes very important when you go to site, because some of those ideas you realize they are not as easy as they may seem when you're dealing with the computer-aided designs. So let me give you a practical example. There's a time we were doing some accommodation units, prefab accommodation units for about 3,500 workers, mine workers. When you're dealing with that kind of a scale, you really don't care so much about how fancy and how creative a concept is. You look at how modular that concept is. You look at how quickly can you assemble those buildings, because probably you have a period of 6 to 8 months to deliver 3,500 units. You don't really care about how many angles you're supposed to, or how many circles, or how many, you know. You care about how modular can that design be, how constructible can that design be. And that is the same concept I see they're using in affordable housing. If you look at those houses, they're not anything complex. They're just like most of the apartments that you see probably in places like Shanghai or other Chinese cities. It's comfortable, it's modular, it's easy to construct, right angles, no funny edges, you know, simple. So, and I think that is also very important. You need to put into context the kind of project you're dealing with. If you're dealing with mass production, then you must make it modular. And I think for those who have read the book by, I think it's Professor Kingo, he used to be called Professor Rokwaro, I think, who is an architect by profession. He has written a lot about affordable houses. And I think one of the concepts that he tries to drive across is actually the concept of modularity. So you must put that into context. Of course, that is totally different from when you are doing a fancy building for someone in Karen, and you know they are doing their dream house. That one you take time. Of course, you try to envision everything that you know they want, and of course you have time. They have probably more money at their disposal. So it depends from project to project. And it also depends from context to context.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm being informed that we're out of time. So I'll request the panelists to attend to any unanswered question in the chat and in the Q&A. I'm also informed there is somebody requesting to speak. I don't know if the host is able to check on that from their end. Back to you, Architect Keega.
Yeah, thank you very much, my co-host. This is a very interesting and very informative discussion that we've started here, courtesy of the Architects Alliance. Personally, I've also picked up a lot of information that is pertinent to what we do every day. And as partners in this industry, the talking from where we are representing architects, it's a very good thing that we keep talking out these things, because in our own different cocoons, we have architects who say, oh, our jobs are being taken by project managers. On the other side, we have project managers says these architects are lazy, they're not efficient, they don't know how to manage projects. But that synergy, I tend to think it's something that we need to engage more and keep talking to each other as opposed to at. We talk to each other as opposed to at each other. Probably I would just like to request our panelists, we have a few minutes. I could give a minute to each of them for their closing remarks so that we're able to beat the time that we have, and then I'll come around and close. So we can start with architect Jacob Motanya. Oh, I've seen Farid. Did Farid Mohammed want to speak before we close? A minute, Farid. Please unmute your mic. Farid, your mic is you're muted. Let's 2 minutes.
Hello?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
So I was just first of all, I want to greet you all. This is a very good space. I entered like halfway, but I just wanted to comment. Maybe we should also try and engage ourselves. Like, if you are an architect, you get a job, you can maybe look for a construction manager who you can give them job, or even if it's just a small contract, if you are employing them. Similarly, the construction manager as well. If you get a job and it involves some design, you don't need to tell the client directly that you are the one designing. You're not. You're going to look for an architect. You can take the job, and then, but now look for an architect. Look for a designer to now do the design process, so that at least you can now be involving everyone else. And then maybe we can, as professionals, we can have a certain rate, because I know engineers and architects and QSs have been doing this for the longest time. They can even give less rates when you're being given a job by the architect, by the QS, by the engineer, etc. So that was just my comment. Thank you.
Allow me to chime in, because I would be doing a disservice if I kept silent. Farid, you cannot possibly be taking on a design job and execute it. You are not an architect. You are not equipped to deliver on design. Please stop doing that. This is what the kind of attitude that is messing up this industry. Let everybody keep to their lane. Do what you're trained and registered for. Please. I'm glad that you've outed yourself. Stop doing that. Thank you.
Wow. We're closing on a high. CPM Mwangi, there's something you wanted to, Patrick, to comment on? Please unmute your mic. Yes,
Sorry,
you
am I
are.
audible?
Yes.
Yeah, something I wanted to comment from the panelists. I think they have covered everything. Mine is just to say, at least let's acknowledge that even if the competition is tight, there's enough for everyone. CPM Steven mentioned about being in projects maybe outside that of a high magnitude, but you can actually have your projects here with those international clients, of which still works, and you're able to actually understand and appreciate the role of everyone. Like, for instance, for me, I don't do design at all. I actually hated those CAD softwares. But in my rounds, I meet a client who wants maybe, let's say, even a simple structure like a mansionette or a villa. I, of course, go ahead to call in an architect. But we have this problem in the industry. The architect goes ahead to slice me out of the job. Just tells the client, especially if you connect them with the client directly, they just tell the client, I have a team or something of the sort, and then you're just out that way. Or maybe the architect wants to double up as the project manager. This was just an example. An engineer can do that. Any other professional can do that. So I think we also learn to also live within and understand that we can all take up everything. We cannot take up everything at once. Even if a project is a small one, even as little as like 10 million. And finally, I think just weighing on Rob's question, the curriculum needs to be clear on the different aspects that is taught there, because I think CMs tend to design, given that there is usually some intensive sort of training to actually to just design, not to learn architecture, but the designing part. And for me, I took it like it is to appreciate the role of the engineer, of the QS, and the architect, not to become them. So I think that has to be clear in the presentations that they do and the final year project that they do, or any other assignment that they do, so that, because if they come out here, it creates a lot of mess. And at the end of the day, there's also this aspect of undercharging, undercutting, and all that. So those were my submissions. Back to you, moderator.
Yeah, thank you very much, CPM. I just wanted to get, I hope all our panelists are here, so that we just have a minute of closing comments. Architect Motanya, a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this session has been very fruitful and educative. So just to pick a few games from the discussions, the first one, I think, for us as architects, I think we need to take cognizance, or we need to, wake up to the fact that the role of the industry is over. The days of being the king, where you have all the subjects under you, that is no longer it can't work in the building industry anymore. So going by what architect Irene emphasized, there should be more collaboration between us and construction project managers to avoid that conflict. And where the conflicts are about fees, I think what we need to do is focus on our area of expertise, and by so doing, we save, we create time for ourselves to take up more work. And if, as I think, as an architect within the architectural firm, if you feel that you need to do the project management role, you can either upscale yourself in terms of skills as an individual, or bring in that, have as an architect, say, in your company, who can specialize in that role, as the chairman said happens in his firm. So to me, I mean, in ending, I think we need to adopt a more, collaborative view towards the industry. For the project management profession, I think, as has been pointed out, there needs to be more regulation. They need to focus on that which they are trained to do. Crossing over design has its own risks in terms of design quality, and architects are, the training of an architect and qualifications are quite intense. And it's not just to make it harder for others to join the industry. It's there for a reason, so that we maintain safety and, integrity in the buildings that are produced. Otherwise, at the end of the day, the loser will be the consumer, and we don't want that. So yeah, I think those are the key issues that that I picked from this conversation. And yeah, thank you so much for arranging this webinar, and all the best to the participants and panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Architect Motanya. CPM Irene, closing remarks.
I think just as my colleagues have said, it's becoming more and more clear what our roles are, and where we fit into this industry that is really robust, and we continue. Our goal is to continue enriching our industry, and by part of our input in enriching it is approaching it from a collaborative point of view, where we appreciate we have our strengths, we have our niches, There's what we are trained to do. And it's very important, as Patrick has said, to recognize, even if you have trained in an aspect like design or measurements, the essence was to make sure that you remain a project manager in the construction industry. And this is a good opportunity in terms of bringing forth acceptance of all professions within the built environment, because the truth is we are all working. We are all working in this industry, and it will be to the betterment of everybody for us to continue advocating and pushing for the legislation of all professions, so that, as Architect Irene said, and a few others, we can share that responsibility in our various niches. You carry the responsibility of whatever it is that you are doing in your particular projects, so that eventually we do not end up with the very famous blame game that we always have. Something goes wrong in our projects, there is no one to take responsibility. Something goes right, we all want to take responsibility for it. So I hope this is a conversation that will not end here, that we continue having this conversation and supporting all the professions, so that we can make a better built environment, and a built environment that adapts to the best economies across the globe. We can also be part of the industry that, or rather a jurisdiction that also educates other jurisdictions, as we have done in other industries like the ICT space. Of course, we've been able to educate other jurisdictions in this country. So this can also be an industry, or the construction industry in Kenya can also be an industry to be benchmarked. And that is the goal for each of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CPM Irene. Let me request Architect Irene, closing remarks.
Thank you, Architect Keega. For me, I think what I want to highlight is this. You see, when you have a doctor, a surgeon, with a patient on their table, a mistake by that particular consultant or doctor for that, or surgeon for that matter, will lead to the loss of one life. The mistakes we make in the construction industry, as you have seen in the past with collapsed buildings, etc., leads to the loss of multiple lives with one single mistake. I am imploring us as practitioners in the built environment industry, let us only do what we are equipped and licensed to do. Let us not have situations where construction project managers are doing drawings. It's illegal. You're doing drawings, you're going to find an architect to sign and stamp it for you because you're not licensed to stamp it anyway. Let us start with having integrity amongst ourselves as professionals. And if we do that from the very base level, we will make a difference in this industry. And as Irene, CPM Irene has said, it can be won if we all work together towards building an industry of integrity. Then we can be looked at as a benchmark. But the responsibility begins with each of us. Let us not cross lines and start doing things that we are not licensed to do, things that we cannot take responsibility for. Please, let us bring back integrity into the profession. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Irene. Let's have CPM Stephen Kamau, closing remarks.
All right, thank you. I do agree with all the speakers who have spoken ahead of me. I think the best approach to this is to work together to complement each other, not to compete against each other. There is nothing to compete about. Think about it, when you think about CPM or you think about construction management and architecture, think about the medical field. If, for example, you're dealing with, you have a heart problem, you only go to see a cardiologist. You don't go to see a nephrologist, no matter how good he could be. You go specifically to a certain specialist. A nurse knows their boundary. They know we only go up to here. This is our responsibility and our liability stop here. From here, the doctor takes over. From here, a GP, a general practitioner, and from here, a specialist takes over. So let it be very clear that we are not out here to be everything and anything. Everybody have their niche. And the best way I would advocate for is if, for example, you are an architect and you get a client, it is in your interest that you recommend that the client employs a construction manager to manage their site, because that way they will ease your burden as an architect. When you have somebody on site who understands your drawing, who understands instruction, who can communicate effectively with you and with the contractors, then that frees up your time as an architect to take another job and another job and another job. It doesn't add you any value if you become everything in one project, but you're being paid peanuts. It adds you more value if you can get other people who will help you on that job as construction managers, so that you can also go out and look for other jobs. For as construction managers, because I've seen that many times, where you find a client approaches you, and many times even me, they approach me and they ask me, okay, Steve, I want to do a go down somewhere in industrial area. How do I go about this? It is not my role to start telling them of how I'm going to design. I know how to design, but I don't want to. And not that I don't want to, even the law does not allow me to do that. So I'll go and talk to an architect. I'll recommend an architect. The architect will do his design part, and after that, I'll take over the supervision. I'll do the coordination between the architect and the client as the project manager representing the client. And when the project goes to site, I'll also be representing the client on site. However, as one of the speakers said, we have seen instances where you introduce somebody to the client and they edge you out very fast because they want to portray this know-it-all attitude. That will not help, and it has not helped anyone. So the best approach is a collaborative attitude, a complementary attitude, where when you get a job, do your job up to your extent, what you're paid for, give the other job to the other person, and don't do something that you're not licensed or you're not trained to do. Then on the other side of training, and especially people like, I can see people like Irene, who are already teaching in the universities. I would recommend that we reduce the attention to which we give architectural designs in project management, in construction management. We spend too much time. Sometimes I feel like we do too much design work. And I remember even in ADD with some of the architects there, we were actually, I think, doing more design work at second year, third year than even what the architects were doing. It's not necessary. I would even advocate that we do basic design and we also do engineering design, because I've realized that engineering projects are more creative, they are more rewarding, and there are many, as opposed to building projects, which probably many of the architects here focus on. So it's a challenge to you, Irene, and so many others who are in the academic spectrum. Please pay a little more attention to engineering designs and a little less attention to architectural designs, because this is the reason as to why some of the students, when they leave, they feel they are more equipped probably than architects or equivalent to the architects to do design, which is an illusion. So let's have a balanced approach towards design studio, reduce on the architecture, improve on civil and structural engineering, and of course, other professional specializations. So I think if we work with a collaborative and complementary attitude, we'll help each other more than when we start fighting for small things. Yeah.
Thank you very much, CPM Steve. I think we have come to the end of this webinar, but what has come up, because I still see questions coming up, is on the need for us to do another session or more sessions like this. I would like to thank our panelists for taking their time out of their busy schedules to come and guide us, take us through the presentations, take us through this whole discussion. I'll also thank my co-moderator, Patrick, for guiding us on the Q&A. And I'll also thank the Architects Alliance for facilitating this webinar. And as it has come out clearly, this is a discussion that we need to have more and more, such that we make our industry better. Thank you, all of us who are here, attendees. The social media handles for the Architects Alliance are in the chat. You can kindly get in touch with us. I think we don't have the social media handles for the construction project managers. Construction project managers. I don't know if I can request Patrick to put it on the chat, so that this can also go out to our attendees. Thank you all very much. We have done 19 minutes out of our time, and let's look forward to the next engagement. Thank you all, and may you have a blessed evening. Thank you very much.
Asante sana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,